I guess I want to say my hat's off to you guys, and a very, very big congratulations to every single one of the participants in this room. You guys have been, as has been mentioned, the face of this. You've been debating it, you've been talking about it, you guys live it each and every day, so congratulations to everybody. I've been thoroughly impressed with some of the work that you guys have put forward, and I will say, even though I'm in law school, I didn't do anything like this in elementary school or middle school, so you guys are already ahead of me, and I think you all have very good and bright future careers ahead of you. At this time, I do, however, want to bring forward two of our teams, debate teams rather, on contemporary issues. The affirmative team 116 from Cherryland. We have Micah Stolt, and unfortunately, one of the other debaters, Michaela Rogers, fell ill over the past evening, so she's not going to be with us, but she was one of the winners and did a fantastic job, so unfortunately she's not going to be able to present her argument in front of us. The other team would be the negative team 102 from Quincy, which consists of Kaylin Hines and Natalie Knorr. Now I want to just give an overview for those of you that didn't participate in the debate, how the debate process actually works. So we have, obviously, this is unconventional. This is not how it typically works just because Michaela fell ill, but normally you have two teams of two people. One team takes the affirmative side, agreeing with the question, and the second team takes the negative side, disagreeing with the question. And this year, the question was resolved. The Michigan legislature should mandate school districts to implement, or enact rather, anti-cyberbullying policies. And we've talked there, you've heard from a lot of our current and former members of our state legislature, and it looks like we're already doing that, and indeed you guys in your own legislature enacted such legislation. So that was the topic this year. And I just want to note that the negative team has to present the best argument against the question. It doesn't necessarily mean that they think it shouldn't be enacted. It just merely means that we have to disagree with it, research the issue, and come forward with the best argument we can possibly make, whether or not they actually agree with it. And in some instances, that's actually even harder. I think we can all agree that bullying, that isn't necessarily a good thing, and we don't necessarily want to encourage it by saying that the legislature shouldn't enact anti-cyberbullying policies. But I just wanted to mention that because you may hear, or you will hear rather, some of our members from our Quincy team that are going to be arguing against the enactment, which may sound like they're in favor of bullying, but that's certainly not the case. So I just wanted to mention that before we begin. The outline or the guidelines of the debate are each member gets 5 minutes to have a constructive speech. The constructive speech is supposed to be well-researched, and you present all your arguments in support of your position. So the affirmative team would obviously say, this is all the evidence that I've gathered, this is what the research suggests, and this is why the legislature should enact this anti-cyberbullying policies. So the first member of the affirmative team would go. And then the first member of the negative team would go and would say, this is all the research that we've compiled. This is the research, this is the issue, this is why the legislature shouldn't enact the policy. And then they go back again. The second affirmative person presents their argument, and then the second negative person presents the argument. And then gets to the very interesting part of the debate. And I want to appreciate Senator-elect Caswell for bringing this up, and that's listening. You really do have to listen during the debates because the second half of the debate is a rebuttal. And you basically get to say, this is what my opponent said, and this is why they're wrong, which can be very interesting. So it's very, very important to listen to what the other team is saying so that when you're presenting your rebuttal, which is only 2 minutes long, and you only have 5 minutes to prepare it, so it's not a whole lot of time. So it definitely is very, very important to listen. With that said, I want to go ahead and we'll begin. And like I said, it's unfortunate that Michaela Rogers wasn't able to be here with us. So we're going to have to sort of, it's not going to be authentic, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But we'll go ahead and get started. And Michaela, I believe you're first. Since you were affirmative.
Micah.
Or I'm sorry, Micah. Whoever wants to go first.
Good morning, I'm Natalie Noor, and my partner is Kaylin Hines. We are negative team number 102. We are debating the question resolved. The Michigan legislature will mandate school districts to enact cyberbullying policies. The negative team agrees that such a policy should not be required because it will not solve the problem. If someone were to Google definition of cyberbullying, they would get 55,400 results. How is the state of Michigan supposed to pick just one as their own and use it as a foundation for their policy? The National Conference of State Legislatures defines cyberbullying as willful and repeated use of electronic communication devices to harass and threaten others. But what does that look like? Quincy Community School District has a policy that no student may bring a weapon on school property. If someone brings a knife whose blade is 3 inches or longer, it is grounds for permanent expulsion. That is an objective policy to enforce. We can measure the knife and decide if the offender needs to be expelled, but how can we objectively measure whether someone is being harassed or threatened? It is vague and subjective at its core. That is a recipe for an ineffective policy. According to DoSomething.org, the most common form of cyberbullying involves kids feeling ignored and disrespected. Based on this statistic, if a student chose to ignore a friend request on Facebook, he could be punished for cyberbullying. If he lived in Idaho or California, he could actually be expelled from school according to the current cyberbullying policies. Not only is the definition of bullying subjective and vague, but cyberspace allows those who wish to bully to do so anonymously. So if cyber is impossible to track, and bullying is subjective and vague, it is not possible to make a concrete policy on the matter. In the notoriously tragic case of Megan MYIG, she committed suicide at age 13 after being insulted on MySpace by a boy named Josh Evans. 6 weeks after Megan's death, the parents learned that Josh Evans never existed. He was an online character created by Lori Drew, then 47, who lived 4 houses down the street. How can we make a policy against something we can't describe and then punish people we can't find? Another problem with adopting a cyberbullying policy is that it prevents people from even speaking the truth, if the truth hurts someone's feelings. The First Amendment of our United States Constitution reads, "Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech." Establishing a cyberbullying policy clearly violates the First Amendment right we have to speak freely. In Iowa, New Jersey, Washington, and Maryland, when a student electronically communicates about someone else's actual or perceived personal characteristic, she is cyberbullying. The policies prohibit the communication of actual facts if those facts offend someone. This cannot be allowed to happen. Many courts have recognized this violation to free speech rights. In Reno versus ACLU, the U.S. Supreme Court wrote that speech on the internet is entitled to the highest level of protection, just like print media. In Layshawk versus Hermitage School District, the 3-judge panel of the Third Circuit Court cautioned it would be an unseemly and dangerous precedent to allow school authorities to reach into a child's home and control his or her actions there. In the Buesnick versus Woodland School District, a federal court ruled that the First Amendment rights of a high school student were violated when the school suspended him for 10 days due to his homepage, which criticized the school. The judge stated that disliking or being upset by the content of a student's speech is not an acceptable justification for limiting student speech under Tinker. The public interest is not only served by allowing Buesnick's message to be free from censure, but also by giving the students at Woodland High School this opportunity to see the protections of the United States Constitution and the Bill of Rights at work. In early 2010, a federal court in Florida ruled that the high school student could not be punished for creating a Facebook group entitled, "Miss Sarah Phelps is the worst teacher I've ever met." All these cases show that our courts are acknowledging and protecting free speech rights on the internet. Our state should not adopt a law requiring schools to have cyberbullying policies. It would be a subjective law that can't be enforced, and it clearly violates the First Amendment. Thank you.